Hi, this is Brian Pasch, and I have a challenge for general managers and owners of dealer groups. When you hear that customers want a more transparent, faster, and easier way to buy a new car, some of you are saying that would be nice, but it doesn't fit into our sales process. What if you could deliver a transparent, faster, and easier way that was more profitable and sustainable? If you don't believe me, tune into my story about the future of automotive retail powered by the technology of Fuse-Autotech. It's exciting to sit down with general managers who are part of modern retailing and pushing the customer experience to new levels using the Fuse-Autotech platform. So let's take a moment and have a real life conversation about what it's like in the field with Fuse-Autotech. And let's get to it from the general manager's perspective. Erika, what kind of store do you run, and how many people are on your team?
So I'm at Walser Brooklyn Park Hyundai.
Okay.
We have a team of salespeople, about 17, and 4 sales managers.
Great. And let's talk about the experience you have with onboarding new sales associates with the Fuse platform. How is it making it easier for you to select, train, and retain employees?
Well, I think salespeople's biggest concern is always how hard is it going to be, right? We hire a lot of people with not having previous experience.
Okay.
So the ease of use of the technology is extremely important, right? They want to make sure that they're not going to fumble around at the most important part of the transaction, which is the numbers.
Right.
The customer has anxiety. The salesperson has anxiety. They want to make sure that when they get to this part, everything is seamless, easy, and hassle-free. And
Right.
I feel like the Fuse tool does do that.
So when, well, those peanuts, here we go. So when you're out looking for candidates for your store, are you looking for people with automotive experience? Are you looking for people that are just strong personalities? What's the mix? And how long does it take for them to get comfortable doing solo transactions?
Sure. So what I'm looking for is, are you coachable and are you trainable?
Come on, amen to
Listen,
that.
I'll bring people in from the automotive industry. Obviously, I've been in the business for over 20 years. So if you have previous experience, that's great. But are you coachable? Are you stuck in your old ways? Are
So
you
good.
open to new things? I find a lot of success, though, with people with no previous experience, especially, interestingly enough, customers who've actually purchased a vehicle from us
Wow.
and said the experience was so easy. It was so smooth. I could see myself sitting across the table and saying, I could buy a car from myself.
Wow.
And that's when you know you've done a great job. And that's how we continue to bring new people in the industry who may not be familiar with what automotive really is like. And as we continue to change what that looks like, we continue to bring in new people who are excited about it.
So we've talked about how new technology, reinventing the sales process, is faster, easier, more transparent. In your store, selling Hyundai, what would you say the average transaction time is from when the customer chooses a vehicle? How long does it take for them to go through your sales process running on top of the Fuse-Autotech?
I'd say right about an hour and a half.
Okay.
We're every day tweaking this to kind of get faster and faster. My store, I've only been at 6 months, so we're relatively new. So we're kind of getting through some processes and making sure that from beginning to end, we're looking at each piece of the transaction to the point that we actually do time studies to say, where is it clunky?
Okay.
Where could we maximize time? What can we do to make sure the salesperson is prepared ahead of time and have a lot of information ahead before the customer gets there?
Great.
So as we're kind of working through those glitches, I hope to see us getting under an hour, which would be absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful.
But I think the most important part is how long does the customer feel like they're there? Because they could be there a short period of time, but if it feels like a long time, then it is, right?
Right.
So it's all about what their perception is and how we can maximize what they're doing during their downtime to make sure, again, that if it's easy, transparent, and hassle-free, then both the customer and the salesperson don't feel like they're being burdened with this time.
One of the things that we've heard is that using the Fuse remote technology, being able to send out those credit apps ahead of time or paperwork to sign can really shorten or compress that sales cycle. How do you get your sales team more comfortable with using those technologies to save time in the showroom?
Listen, for salespeople, they always love that. They want to do it sometimes too much. I'm like, hold on, this one's already coming in, right?
Right.
They love to be able to remote sign customers. They love to be able to have customers who may have a spouse or someone who's not at the dealership at the time.
Correct.
Sometimes it's just, hey, I want to look at the paperwork before I get there. I want to be familiar with the documents.
Okay.
As much as we think there's a hesitation because if someone sees something they don't like, it's actually better for the customer because they feel like there's no surprises. If they have a question, they ask, they call, they reach out to you. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of pre-prep them, and then they're much more familiar with what they're looking at, which makes the process in store so much faster.
Compliance, PVR, profitability, these are all things that come up in discussions when general managers like yourself are looking for new technology. Let's look at each one of those. So when it comes to compliance, dealers today have to be very careful about disclosures, that every step along the way is documented. So if there's an audit, if there's a claim, they can defend. How do you as a general manager feel more comfortable? Like, I can sleep at night because everyone's following the same process. And if there's a compliance sign off, it's built into the software. I don't have to train people to be in a compliant sales process. They follow a compliant sales process.
Well, I think one good thing about Walser is they make sure that everything's written and documented and processes are made in writing ahead of time. So when they roll out any new product, they know exactly what needed to be for compliance to take the headache off of the general managers. We have a lot going on.
Right.
And the last thing we really want to have to worry about is, did I get everything that I needed in this deal jacket?
Right.
So if the tool can already have that in place, could it already have all the things to keep us legally compliant, keep it easy, and make sure we're not chasing things after the fact, then that makes my job easier, the salesperson's easier, especially since we're one point of contact and don't have finance managers. We need to make sure that the compliance piece is locked in so that we're not worried about legal issues afterwards.
You know, Fuse is built on technology that a dealer can customize and integrate their existing sales project when it's a single screen with one person, a single screen with three people. Let's talk about your job. You're only there if you're running a profitable store based on the investment that your owners are making. How do you feel that Fuse is helping you reach your sales objectives? Because every presentation is consistent. Everyone's following your playbook, your coaching strategy. How does that help you be more effective as a business leader?
Profitability is extremely important, especially in this market as we're kind of watching margins start to decrease. I think, like you said, it's the idea that being able to have a process and know that it's kind of a conveyor belt system in some ways, right? If everybody's doing the same thing every single time, then it's easy to figure out where we're having issues or where there's a minor change. So we're looking at these numbers every single day. We're looking at the metrics on front-end profitability, back-end profitability. We're watching our service contract penetration. We're watching our gap penetration. How many of our customers are financing? Why and why not? Which salespeople are struggling with which products. And because we have those reports and we're able to look at the tool, then we can say specifically and make changes in the moment, not at the end of the month, that affect profitability so we can go forward and make the changes necessary to get the impact and the results that we need.
You bring up an interesting point that you could see each transaction, the time it took for each step. You could see your sales associates that are crushing Gap or other products and those that are weak.
Yep.
So it becomes a coaching tool, right?
Absolutely.
Because dealers who have 4 or 5 different tools that compromise their sales process can't see that journey. They can't see the timing. They're not connected. How important is that to you as a leader, being able to see which people I can call up in a sales meeting to actually share how they're doing their best practice to get everyone to improve their performance?
Absolutely. I think the data is so important because you can look back at a particular menu that a salesperson looked at and said, oh, they spent a lot of time on this particular menu. What did they click? What did they remove? How did they structure this menu? And then go back to them to that point of the coaching opportunity and say, hey, I saw you move these products here. Why? What was your thought process behind it? What was the end result? And then coach that in front of an entire team and say, hey, what would you have done differently maybe to have gone back and got that additional product?
That's
or
great.
Maybe spent a little less time on this. And so the data is just as important as the seamlessness of the experience, that you can go back and take it to your team and train not only the salespeople, but the managers too, right? We do a lot of, because we're one point of contact, ability to let a manager jump in. And so there's different parts in the process where a manager, because of the transparency of the screen being up, can look at the body language, can see how long it's taking, and say, you know what, this is a good opportunity for me to jump in, step in and help my salesperson, coach them in real time,
Right.
and then go back and have the deeper conversation with the data later on.
One of the challenges in training, retention, and building trust is the fact that many dealers use multiple tools. So whatever's presented on the showroom looks very different in the F&I office. I know it's hard to answer this question, but maybe there's some stories that come to mind. It would seem to me that today's generation is looking for a clean, consistent presentation of numbers. They're looking for the ability to change things in front of them on the fly, do some what-if scenarios. What do you think you're building in future loyalty, retention, whether it's a single screen, one person, a single screen with an F&I manager, in this world that you're creating, you're changing perceptions. What does that consistent screen mean to your customers? What feedback? Is it really a trust building exercise, or are we just selling a pretty tool?
Well, for me, I think people are familiar with what they're used to, and we're walking around with our phones, which are now little mini computers. I mean, I have a 5-year-old who has her own tablet. You know, if they probably made phones for 5-year-olds, she might actually have a phone, right?
Right.
But the idea of it is that technology is becoming more and more important, and people are used to seeing things on screens, right? Whether it's at the airport, whether it's at any part of their business, they're using screens for some reason, and that gives a sense of trust. Because the information is right there in front of them in real time, and the ability to change those options in real time.
Right.
I came from old school, Foursquare, green Sharpie, right? I know how that looks. But when you ask the customer how they feel about scratching some numbers off and saying, hey, sign here, versus having digital signatures and being able to see the numbers change in real time, I think it just is the future.
Right.
And if dealers want to get on board with what customers expect, things to be fast, things to be quick, and things to be effortless, then digital is the way to go. And being able to have tools that give that sense of transparency are going to be what actually is the future.
General managers, in addition to profitability, customer satisfaction, right? We've talked about it, but OEM rankings and customer satisfaction scores. Obviously, you're trying to balance multiple masters, the owners and profitability, the customers, the OEM. How do you feel that Fuse is helping you exceed OEM expectations so that your stores is ranking high or the highest in the market?
F&I wait time is one of the biggest questions on the CSI survey that people ask. I think what's really nice is the ability for our sales managers to go in and kind of reset the clock, right? They're letting the customer know right before we get into the Fuse transaction portion of it, this is the F&I side, especially since we don't have traditional finance managers where you would go in the box.
Right.
They need to know that this is that part of the process. And we've seen with that intervention of the sales manager coming in and getting involved, kind of doing the credit interview, that it's just becomes so much easier for the customer to realize, wow, that was quick. From the moment I said yes and I was able to see numbers to the moment I got out of there, that piece was a lot faster than I expected.
Right.
So for CSI, I think it's done wonders. Our CSI scores continue to climb. We're keeping the OEM happy,
Right.
which means that we're keeping ourselves compliant. And then again, ultimately it's for the customer satisfaction, right? We want to make sure we're compliant, but we want to make sure customers really feel like I would send friends back to you. I would have my family come back to you. I can walk out of there and say, I got the right deal at the right price and that you made it easy and you respected my time.
Erika, since you've been in the auto industry for a while, you've worked at dealerships with the Foursquare, multiple pieces of technology to get a deal done. I want you to speak to your peers who are in that environment right now. You're all driven people. You are natural leaders. If you're a general manager, what would you tell them is a specific benefit, looking back at the old way and the new way? Are you enjoying your job more? Are you able to do more of the things that you love? We've heard extra profitability. We've heard extra customer satisfaction, but let's turn it to you. What benefit to you as a general manager is this platform delivering compared to the old way?
So I'm going to say this. My most important part of my job is coaching people. I am a people person. My favorite quote is that people are the new currency. And so when I think about my team, my sales manager, my salespeople, I want to spend more time in front of them being impactful.
Wow.
And I want my sales managers to spend more time in front of their team being impactful. And if you have people being impactful with their time, they can't be caught up in paperwork. They can't be caught up in tools and systems that are clunky, that don't work, that make you frustrated. And for the 20 years I've been in the business, that's been a lot of it.
Yeah.
So my day was never long because of the people.
Wow.
My day was long because of the paperwork
That's
and
beautiful.
the processes and the information that didn't coincide, the multiple tools that I had to use, and I felt exhausted. So by the time I got to my sales team, I didn't have much left.
Right.
So the idea for a tool to save you time, to save you headache and be hassle-free means that now the pieces of me that is the best parts can be given to my team,
Come on.
which is the most impactful thing I could ever give them.
I love that. And you know, no one that we've interviewed today has put it so succinctly that you're right. Yeah, the first time you learn something that's paperwork, yeah, I did it. And the second time, in the first month or two, you could say, yeah, I got all my paperwork. But no one goes home and says, man, I love filling out paperwork. I love checking boxes. I love filing things away.
Being compliant.
Yeah, no, they talk about experience.
Yep.
And their people. So thanks for bringing that up. Erika, let's finish up our talk today talking about the future. There's headwinds for sure. High interest rates, inventory supply, now in abundance for many brands. And well, the threat of competition coming from overseas. What are you planning on in the year ahead with your team? What areas of the retail experience are you focusing on just to improve, to give you that moat, that protection for your profitability, for your retention, for your loyalty? What's an area you want to work on personally at your store this year?
Mine is always going to be people and culture. I will continue to go back to that. Not only the people that work specifically for me, but also the customers that we're serving. When I can find tools or resources that make that experience better and easier, there's a way to make sure that they can start that process at home, right? If you think about doctors' offices or airlines or any other platforms where people can start doing everything before they get there, they're uploading their documentation ahead of time. You can even get on a flight with a virtual driver's license in some states. Your driver's license is in your phone. This is the future of automotive. We have to be ahead of the competition. We have to be thinking about ways to be innovative. We have to think about ways to make sure the customer feels like when they walk in the door, it's as easy as that Amazon experience.
Come on.
And until we figure that part out, we're going to be behind. We're going to be chasing our tails. But I'll tell you, at Walser Hyundai, we're going to be ahead of the game because we're going to continuously look for those places where we can make our customers have an easier experience, make our salespeople have an easier experience, and ultimately drive profitability, passion, and purpose within the retail industry.
Well, those of you who are watching and other general managers specifically, if you want to unlock the full potential of your team and to do more of the things that you love, it's going to be because you've automated your sales process, you've automated your compliance, and you've created a process that's scalable, sustainable, and delivers the best customer experience. So what are you waiting for? Dig into the other modules in this video series and get a demo of the Fuse-Autotech platform because the future is in your hands. The only thing you have to do is act now.